Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Brownsville as is with
Ashana.
and Sonia. So today we're at a really special place in Haywood County, the Hatchie National Wildlife Refuge. It's a waterfowl sanctuary and a great place for all kind of outdoor activity. And we're actually sitting
Right. On the docks at ONeill Lake.
Yes.
It's a man-made lake. That was the site of the first project fish. I will tell you a little more about that a little later. But just take a look at this beautiful scenery. Isn't it gorgeous right behind us?
This is just one of the gorgeous spots on the refuge. It's filled with awe-inspiring views throughout the whole refuge system. Here at ONeill Lake at sunset,
Oh,
if you're on the
gosh.
east end of the lake,
Yes.
looking west,
Yes.
it is beautiful.
It's a spectacular view from the east end. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you haven't been to ONeill Lake at sunset, come.
So, we could go on and on about how beautiful it is here. But we have a special guest with us today. Would you like to introduce
We
him, perhaps?
do have a very special
Yeah.
guest. I've been fortunate enough to do a lot of different activities and work with Brian. And so we have Brian Roberts, who is the refuge manager here at Hatchie National Wildlife Refuge. So Brian, thank you first
You're welcome.
for being here today.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, why don't you first tell us what the refuge does and how long it's been here and really why?
The refuge was established in 1964 as a national wildlife refuge, as a sanctuary for migratory birds and migratory waterfowl. It's 11,556 acres here in Haywood County.
Wow.
That's a pretty good size.
That sure is.
That's a lot of exploring to
It
do.
is. It is. A lot of adventure.
Yes.
11,000 acres.
And
Oh, wow.
there's so much to do here. So just give us a sample of what all you can do when you come to the refuge.
Well, the wildlife is for wildlife first, but however, the refuge is also established for wildlife dependent recreation. As you can see, there's several folks behind us on the lake fishing today.
Yes.
So it has to be wildlife dependent recreation, hunting, fishing, environmental education, and hiking, outdoor photography. We have a lot of bird watching and just a lot of those opportunities here on the refuge.
Now, I know a lot of people come and walk at ONeill Lake for exercise. Now, am I correct that it's a 2-mile loop?
Correct.
Okay,
That's good walking.
that's good
That's
walking.
good walking. I think afterwards we should take the trail and get to moving. What do you think?
I'm all for it.
Be sure and bring a pair of binoculars so you can watch for the birds. And
Oh, yeah.
this time of year we have a lot of migratory birds coming up from South America, moving back to their breeding range and their breeding areas
Right.
throughout the country.
So if I was a first-time visitor to the refuge here, where would you think, just give me maybe a brief summary of what you think I would encounter here.
Well, if you first come to the refuge, we have a visitor center here. And in that visitor center, we're going to have the public use regulations brochures. And it has a map in there and explains the road system throughout the refuge. And we have 18 fishing lakes with boat ramps, and they're old oxbow lakes off the Hatchie River, which are beautiful natural area and the natural landscape of the cypress trees and so forth in the lakes. So we're going to point you to that public use regulation. And then our kiosk here around the lake, it also has a map and some exhibits of what you might see in the area, whether it be trees, birds, or the plants that you can explore.
Okay. A lot of adventure.
A lot of adventure. And
adventure.
we have, speaking of birds, we annually have a Hatchie Bird Fest. I was sure that I wore my latest t-shirt about the Bird Fest. And we attract people from all over the country. I mean, that come here and bird. They're expert people bird watchers who take them out on hikes and stuff. Brian does an awesome nocturnal walk around this lake at night. You get to see the sunset and you get to hear all about all the animals and stuff. And so it's pretty cool. My favorite part of the refuge, I have to tell this, is driving Pile Road all the way through and the different ecosystems that you encounter. Like your you're on the road and it's kind of open and there's forest on both sides, but then all of a sudden you go across this bridge and it's kind of like an old army bridge, and it's what I call it. And then you're in this totally different ecosystem. It's heavy forest, there are wild ferns.
Right.
It's just the temperature drops 10-20 degrees, and it's just amazing to go through the different climates and to see what all's encompassed in the 11,000 acres.
Yeah. I found the refuge to be extremely kid friendly.
Yes.
My most recent experience has been with our summer camps who have come and visited the refuge. I remember them being broken up into several groups because we brought out about 100 kids, and I thought, I don't know if this is going to work or not. But your staff was so accommodating. And they broke up into groups to see the hides, the animal hides.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was a little activity with owl pellets.
Oh yeah. You get to dissect those.
That's right, yeah. So, it was just a wonderful experience and such great exposure to wildlife for our community's kids.
Correct. Our park ranger, Tara Dowdy, she does a great job with
Yes.
kids and environmental education. And it is a great place to come and expose children to the natural areas. It often amazes me that we have so many local folks that have really never really come out and enjoyed, and they don't really understand what's all here, but there's so much here for youth and adults of all ages. And
Yes.
We're so close to the interstate. We do get a lot of folks coming through here.
Mm-hmm.
They'll stop and they'll take a rest and they'll walk and look for birds and stretch their legs. So it brings a lot of makes people stop and enjoy the local area.
Right. Tell us about your latest project with the grant that you just received that you've worked on pretty tirelessly.
Yes, we after a few years of we finally was able to get some funds for it's a floating dock. It floats and it fluctuates with the lake, and what it does is it allows accessibility for those individuals who need a little extra help getting in and out of their boats. It allows for them to pull up to the dock, tie off their boat, and with a handrail there they can pull up out of their boat. So it makes launching and retrieving your boat a lot more easy.
Oh goodness, just access to ONeill Lake. That's what it is, isn't it?
Well, and there's a very special river associated with this refuge, and it takes its name from it. Tell us about the river.
The Hatchie River is it's a naturally meandering river. It hasn't been leveed or channelized in any way, and it just naturally moves like it has since the beginning of time. And it's what creates such a beautiful place here. It's what's created the Oxbow Lakes. In curves of the river, they'll get cut off, and then the river will move, and then it creates a lake, and then so that it's just such a beautiful natural place that it's what we have around. We have 2 boat ramps on the Hatchie River, and for people to enjoy and to launch their boats and to enjoy and fish the river, and people canoeing and kayaking. It's just the natural. It creates the marshlands, the bottomland hardwood forest system, which we're trying to maintain in a pristine state for the waterfowl that come through every winter.
Well, if any student, it's around graduation time here in Haywood County. If there were a student who was about to make the college track and they were kind of indecisive of which way they wanted to go, maybe with agriculture or wildlife, what would you suggest or recommend that they do?
I recommend to get out there and enjoy it, and to talk to the folks that are involved in the refuge system. Ask to volunteer, spend the day, shadow, even with the agricultural aspect. If they would reach out to those folks in that area that are working in that daily, to allow them to shadow, spend the day with them, and kind of expose to what actually goes on. Sometimes it's a little different than what you may think it is, but if you can get in there and get your hands dirty in it, it'll give you good exposure.
I have one more question for you. What's your favorite part of the wildlife refuge?
The favorite
Is there
part,
one?
it's really hard to pin one favorite thing down. I would have to say probably the bottomland hardwood forest. If you have the opportunity to get off on one of our foot trails, you really get into the heart of Hatchie. It really shows you the natural drainage systems and the way the water works, and the way the Hatchie River gets out of its banks and floods these areas. And you can see the certain species of trees and plants that rely on that water. And then those trees provide acorns and all kinds of soft mass and hard mass for the waterfowl that come through and for the wildlife that reside on the refuge.
Great.
Wow, what an awesome place.
Yes. Thank you
Awesome
for
place.
taking time out of your busy schedule. I know it's, taking care of 11,000 acres is a big job,
Yeah.
and
Well,
we
thank y'all.
appreciate you.
Thank y'all for coming
And
out.
thank you for those 23,000 trees.
Oh, you're welcome.
We forgot to mention
We
it,
forgot
didn't we?
the trees. Tell us about the 23,000 trees.
Well, this past winter we actually took some marginal crop ground and we reforested it. We planted 23,000 oaks, pecans, and some persimmons, just a good mix of trees for wildlife.
Yeah.
And we reforested about, I think it was around 72 acres or so
Wow.
that it ended up being. It'll come back into forest, and it creates that natural stage of plant growth where different types of wildlife and birds will use it at different stages throughout its until maturity.
And that's out the Shep Road area.
It's on the
right?
Shep Road
Yeah,
area.
yeah.
Shauna, you and I may never see those trees mature,
I know.
but the work that Brian is doing now is
Yeah.
guaranteeing that future generations are going to be able to enjoy this refuge as
That's
much as we
right.
have.
That's right. What a treasure.
Yes.
What a treasure.
Yes.
Well, we thank y'all, and we thank you for what Haywood County and Brownsville does for the refuge system. Thank you.
Absolutely worth it.
Anya?
Well, I reckon we'll see y'all next time.
All right. See you later.